Before I hiked the Tahoe Rim Trail, I thought the logistics would be the easy part. I mean, it's just a loop around the lake, right? I had planned my routes, I had marked potential water sources, I had gotten my food and resupply and transportation all figured out. But by day 3, I was in trouble, and the maps don't always tell the story of the trail, especially on that north and east side. And this one challenge really changed the way that I had to plan my days thereafter. So in this video, I am breaking down everything I wish I would have known before my solo through hike of the TRT, from permits, water, resupply, transportation, and those little things that can make or break your trail experience. Okay, so let's start off with probably the easiest part of all of this, and that is the permits. Yes, you do need a permit to hike the Tahoe Rim Trail, but it is not a permit needed obtained through the National Park Service or recreation.gov. The permit is given by the Tahoe Rim Trail Association, or the TRTA, and you can find the instructions here on their website. As you see, you've got to call in to the number around 10 to 14 days before you start your first day on the trail. They're going to ask you for some of your information that will be put into the permit. And then most importantly, they're going to ask you what days you're going to be in the Desolation Wilderness, or the days that you anticipate being in the Desolation Wilderness. That area is permitted, but because you're just hiking the TRT, the permit that is given by the association covers you in that area. So you're going to need to obviously know your start date. You're going to need to know your anticipated date or dates within the Desolation Wilderness. And outside of that, that's it. So as soon as you give them that information, they'll fill it all out onto the paper. They will email it over to you. You can print that off and you've got your permit. Permitting, super easy. Probably the easiest part of the whole trail is obtaining and getting that permit. Okay, in my mind, the second easiest part of the TRT from a logistical standpoint is the resupply. Now, obviously you're in a loop. You've got South Lake Tahoe kind of on the southeast side. You've got Tahoe City on kind of the northwest side. So you've got a couple of natural places where you can kind of consider either starting or a mid-loop resupply. I started in Kingsbury South going counterclockwise. So by day 4, I was in Tahoe City. So I had about 3.5 days or so of food to carry with me, 3 full days and a half a day of food to get into Tahoe City. And I resupplied in Tahoe City. Many people can send boxes there or can leave them there at the hotel that they may be staying at. I know a lot of hikers do that. There's another hotel that allows for that to happen. I'm blanking on the name of it, but I will add it up here so you can see. They also have a Safeway, I believe, that's there in Tahoe City. So if you don't want to worry about the logistics of like shipping a box or dropping a box off, you can just go to the grocery store there, the Safeway, and you can pick up a resupply. You can resupply yourself. That is what I chose to do, and that was super easy. Now the benefit, a benefit, at least in my direction of going counterclockwise, is I could have a really great resupply there. If I wanted to, I could have resupplied for the whole rest of my trip, but what I chose to do instead was just get a couple of days of food there at the Safeway, getting into Echo Lake Chalet, which is just south of Lake Aloha. And you can do a decent resupply there, but there's enough there in the chalet that if you needed a day or 2 worth of kind of basic foods, you can do that. And so that's, again, what I chose to do. And in worst case scenario, that's a very heavily trafficked area. You can probably hitch into Myers, I think is the town that's close by there, or into South Lake Tahoe if you need to. There are trail angels all over the place for the PCTers. So you got plenty of options kind of in that area as you get into the Echo Lake Chalet or the Echo Lake area in terms of how you might want to resupply. So resupply on food, pretty easy, big main areas, Tahoe City in the north, Echo Lake Chalet kind of on that southwest side, and then South Lake Tahoe or Meyer you can get to from the Kingsbury section. So lots of places where you can break that up. You don't have to carry a ton of food, 2, 3, maybe 4 days at the very most, depending on your hiking style. But food should be pretty simple for you based on those locations of where you need to go. But if you've got questions specifically about the food, let me know, comment below and I can help you out there. But again, this one is a pretty simple one in comparison to like the John Muir Trail or some others. You got plenty of options. Okay, I think the next piece here is transportation. Transportation is generally pretty easy, right? It's just a loop. So where you start is where you're gonna stop. That is where you start is where you're gonna end. So that part is relatively simple. Now, if you're flying in from out of state or somewhere else, that's gonna compound a few things that might be challenging. That being said, though, there is plenty of, you're in civilization. So most of the conveniences are there. There are plenty of private shuttle services that go from both Sacramento, the Sacramento airport into Lake Tahoe, and plenty from like the Reno airport getting into Lake Tahoe. So you've got options for private shuttles that will go from the airports there. Obviously there's Ubers and other things like that you can do. So for me, I drove from where I live here in the state of Utah. It was a long drive, but I had my car, which is kind of what I needed and what I wanted to do. And then from there, you're kind of looking at, where do I want to start? Where is that start/end point? And what's my direction, clockwise, counterclockwise? Some of that's going to depend on what you kind of want to do early in the trail and how you want to finish the trail. There's a couple of schools of thought. Some are wanting to get the hard stuff done in the beginning, which is kind of how I chose to do it. Others want, hey, I want the trail to kind of condition me so that by the end of my trip, I am more conditioned for the harder pieces of the trail. And so you may choose to go a different direction. Most people are going to go clockwise, and I don't know if that's just because we naturally kind of want to go clockwise. I don't know that there's a benefit one way or the other. It's the same mileage, it's the same distance. I had just chosen to go counterclockwise for whatever reason. I'd also wanted Tahoe City to be kind of midway through, and I wanted to make sure I took a 0 day there. So it just made sense, kind of Kingsbury South. It would be 3 full days and about a half a day for me and my style of hiking to get into Tahoe City. And so Kingsbury South worked great. I think it's about 85-ish miles or so from Kingsbury South to Tahoe City. You may choose to go a different direction, or you may choose to start and stop somewhere else. I felt also Kingsbury South was a good place to start based on what we'll talk about next, which is the challenges of water on that east and north side of the lake. Okay, so let's now talk about water. Water is what I alluded to in the beginning. On day 3, I found myself in some trouble. Water is just a challenge on this trail, particularly on that east and on that north side. And it doesn't matter the time of year. So I'm going to kind of pull up here a little bit of a map that we can look at to kind of show where the consistent water sources are. I'm not going to go into what ones are potentially or not, based on the time of the year or the weather. So consistent water sources and where they are on the trail to kind of help understand a little bit of why I went counterclockwise and why I started in the Kingsbury South area. So here I'm going to pull up Onyx Backcountry. This is my favorite planning tool. The mileage can be a little bit off, at least in comparison to my Garmin watch, but it works, it does pretty well. So starting in Kingsbury South, located here, the first water source you're going to come to that is legit is this Edgewood Creek water. That is one that is consistently flowing, and it goes right on the trail. So Edgewood Creek, I want to say that was maybe about 4-ish miles from the trailhead. Now you're talking a long stretch. So from Edgewood Creek all the way to the Marlette campground, there is no water. There is nothing on trail to get. At Spooner Trailhead, you can cross the highway. You can go down about a half a mile to the Spooner kind of reservoir, the Spooner Lake, and you can get some water there. They may actually have like drinking fountains or something, but I've seen comments about that being really hard to get like a smart water bottle or something in there. But you can go down and get that. The water's there, it's just kind of a challenge. So one solution is to try to cache water there at Spooner. I did that, and that was very helpful. I came in the day before. I took some water up the trail to where I had marked my campsite to be, and I just kind of stashed it there. And then when I came down, then I used that night. When I came down the next morning, I'd put it down by the trailhead and put it somewhere kind of discreetly. And then on my way back out, I went and picked up all of my trash, or what was left over. But again, in between this Edgewood Creek and Marlette Campground, there's no on-trail water. From Spooner to Marlette, it's about 10 miles. So if you've got about 2 liters or so, you can get to Marlette pretty easily, especially early in the morning. At Marlette Campground, there's a pump. There's also a little stream, I think just a little bit past the entrance to the campground. The pump has a little bit of a metallic taste to it. It's just a hand-cranked pump. If you've been on a farm, you've seen one before. And then from there, you're probably another 10 miles or so to the next water source, which is down near Mount Rose Campground and in kind of that Tahoe Meadows area. So there's some meadowy area that's got some running water, or you can kind of go another, mile or so into the Mount Rose Campground where they've got spigots of water and bathrooms and whatnot. So those are kind of the 3 areas there. When you leave Mount Rose Campground, Galena Falls is the next place that you can get water from. And from Galena Falls, there's one other spot, and I don't even know what it's called, but it just is called a reliable stream on the Far Out app. So Galena Falls is about, 3 miles or so roughly from Mount Rose Campground. Then you've got another 4 or so miles to this little reliable stream. And now this is where I had the challenge. From there, it's a good 17 miles from this reliable stream to Watson Lake. And you've got a choice. Do you haul 4+ liters of water to get you 18 miles in the middle of the day to get to Watson Lake? Or coming from Watson Lake. I chose not to, and while I was fortunate, there was definitely some risk there. Trail Angels had left some water at Brockway Trailhead, and I just kind of banked that there would be water there. And fortunately, there was water there. But that's the area you got to be really, really careful, because that's a good 17-ish mile stretch from Watson Lake to this reliable stream, or the reliable stream to Watson Lake if you're going counterclockwise like I did. That's the challenge of water. So we've talked about those locations, kind of pointed them out, hopefully here on this map that will be helpful. That's where you've got to figure things out. What you're going to do? Are you going to plan on carrying 4 liters of water? Are you going to plan on a cache somewhere? You're going to hope that Trail Angels have left some water, which I did, and it did not bite me in the backside, although it could have. It really could have. After that, you're into Tahoe City, you're into the Desolation Wilderness, and you're through the southern part of the trail, Star Lake, Round Lake, and others, like plenty of water. You could probably even just go a liter at a time if you wanted to. So water's a challenge. There's some things to think about as it relates to water on that east and north side of the trail. If you got questions about water, you want my comments on what might be a good plan or whatnot, please comment below here and I will reply and let you know what I think about your water plan, or if you've got questions about the water. Okay, so look, a little bonus tip here at the end. This is a little bit has to do with the transportation, but still kind of logistics. There is a wonderful hostel that is in South Lake Tahoe called the Mellow Mountain Hostel. I stayed there the night before I started the trail, and I actually stayed there again the night that I finished the trail based on when I finished. Super helpful, especially if you do have a vehicle. But again, if you don't, Uber is you know, you're in civilization there in South Lake Tahoe. But that is a great option kind of before or after the trail if you need a night spent somewhere. The hostel's like, I think it was 30 bucks, 40 bucks. There's 4 beds in a room, and they've got nice little curtains. That they're bunk beds, but they got nice little curtains around them. There's even like a little fan in there. They've done a pretty good job with the hostel. There's a big communal area, some hiker boxes, you know, things like that. So highly recommend the Mellow Mountain Hostel. I think it's a good place. It's right kind of there in the downtownish area of South Lake Tahoe. So you've got great food options, great kind of dessert options, a lot of fun things. Bonus tip, Mellow Mountain Hostel. So hey, with that, that is my video. Those are some things that I wish I would have kind of thought about or understood a little bit more. Hopefully you're finding this helpful, friends. Hopefully this was a good overview and understanding kind of logistically of the TRT. If you've got more questions, please let me know. If you want me to dig deeper into any of these areas and really spell things out more clearly or more in detail, please comment and let me know. If you haven't seen what this trail is actually like, check out my daily vlog series of the trail. 9 days, including a day in town on the Tahoe Rim Trail, my first solo through hike. I will link day 1 right here, and follow that along, and you'll see the trail in all of its glory. It's a beautiful trail. Thanks for dropping by, friends. Thanks for being here. I hope you're doing well, and we will catch you all in the next one. Peace.